Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the studio for another late night weekend watercolors at the Watercolors with Michael studio. So, here we are as promised. I'm doing a beach scene. Here it is. This is the picture I picked out. No particular reason other than the fact that I really like this big orange umbrella. I really like that. Anyways, so let's get through some basics here. I'm using a large piece. This is 16 by 20 piece of, here, I'm sorry, it's a 12 by 16 sheet of Pro Art watercolor paper. I pulled it out of the book and there it is. I've got it pre-drawn on here. I'm going to leave this on here. Sometimes the extra white on the camera seems to throw it off a little bit. I'm going to be using my M-gram watercolor paints. Set those off to the side, and I am going to start, if I can find where it's at. There it is. Let me start the paint cam. What else do we need to know? I'm going to be using a couple of my squirrel hair mop brushes and my silver black velvet brushes to do this painting. Let's see. I think that's all I need to do to get started. I do need to give a big thank you out to Jennifer and Christine. Last week they contributed to the studio beer fund. Not that the money really goes towards beer, it goes towards all of the art supplies and everything you see here. It's just a fun way to list it. But thank you, Jennifer, thank you, Christine, for that generous donation. As always, I've got water up here, my paints over there, and I think I'm about ready to get going. I'm going to set that reference photo off to the side here, and I'm going to grab, you know what, I'm going to grab this is my Dana squirrel hair. I'm going to grab this just because it's a little bit bigger. Got quite a bit of real estate to cover. And I'm going to grab a bit of my cerulean blue here. Actually, this is cobalt blue. Hold on one second. I seem to have lost my color card. Actually, I'm going to go back into my cobalt blue, my cerulean blue. This is cerulean, that's cobalt. I'm going into my cerulean blue. The cobalt blue oftentimes is a bit too bright. And I'm just going to put this on here. And if it seems a little too bright, then I can just mix in, just dab in a little bit of this Payne's Gray, which already has a bit of a blue to it, to dull it down just a little bit. If our day seems like it's too bright. Here we go. It's been quite a while since I've done something like this where I've painted the entire scene. Hey Ange, how are you? Still buffering. That's not good. So I'm going to mix a little aquamarine in here. I thought all my buffering issues were over with. Apparently they are not. Hope they go away soon. Now, as you will notice, this paper, when we get full wet, does buckle a little bit, but it's got the whole thing. I'd be willing to bet that when we get the entire page wet, that the whole thing will settle down a little bit. Just putting in some blue colors here. a little phthalo blue, a little ultramarine in here, a little Payne's gray. I can do this and not worry about my horizon line up here too much because my board is tilted. I'm just going to say it looks like it's pretty steady on my end, Ange. Not too many problems here. Let's see. Let me just bring this over. I want to finish getting around this umbrella. Before I start to dry too much, I'm just going to tip this. Come on. I'll tip this just a wee little bit. I hope you all can still see that. I should still be in the viewing range. I've marked this time what my viewing range is on my desktop here with a couple of pieces of tape. So as long as, as long as I keep my image inside that tape, I should be okay for viewing. At least that's my hope. Hey, Cynthia, you made it. Welcome in. Let's see. I'm going to look up and read what you said here in just a second. There we go. Just a nice, easy little bit. This white strip that I'm leaving here is actually kind of the a wave that's there. We're going to get to that in a second. Let's see. It's been buffering, kind of annoying. Making chicken and broccoli and rice tonight. Ooh, that's great. Well, in this case, Cynthia, you hate when people say it's not their fault. I readily admit that it oftentimes is my fault. I'm looking at my stream. It doesn't look that like anything's wrong. Lots of times it'll flash at me and let me know I'm having network issues. It's not showing that tonight, but I will readily admit oftentimes it is absolutely my fault. Let's see. I need to look at my reference photo here. I want to keep coming right on down. So the water after our wave here is much more brown. So I'm going to grab a bit of this burnt umber here and start to put some of this on here very lightly, like this. Just kind of scrub that on. And then I'm going to come back in with a little bit of ultramarine and just kind of drag that through in a couple of places. I'm hoping beyond hope that will blend out and start to look like it's coming right up the beach. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of this burnt umber with a little bit of yellow ochre. And I guess I should say that I've gone down a size brush, and I don't really want, I'm trying to cover a lot of space really fast. I'm going to go back to my larger brush just so we can cover a bit more space. And I'm going over what was what I've drawn out here as a shadow. But not over what I have here as this sunbather's blanket. And I think just about like that. I did add a little bit of maroon perylene into this just to add a little bit of red color. What I want to do is have that little bit of red here. It's going to help to pull this whole thing. Oh, see, now I've gotten a little bit low, haven't I? Hoping to pull this whole thing forward just a little bit. That red will really help with that without changing the color too much. And we've got some texture in our sand back here, which excuse me, which is very nice. I just want to get this bit done here, and then I'm going to look up. I know there are a few comments up here that I want to get to respond to. Just give me, oh, this side's better. It's a little wetter. That's blending out very nicely there. I really like that. And I don't think I'm off to the side, am I? No, I'm okay. And underneath this umbrella, I'm just going right to the edge, right to that pencil line. The orange is a pretty strong color, but I don't want to have a lot of white lines there, or I don't want to have painting over top of another color. Oh yeah, and just like I thought, as the paint soaked through my paper up here, it's starting to lay flat. It's doing a lot better when the whole paper gets soaked. Just go right around this guy's toes and his foot. A little of that maroon perylene on this side. Now my only issue with this is going to be, once I get this whole thing wet, what am I going to do while it's drying? Before I put the next coat on, you all are just going to have to listen to me babble on a little bit. There we go. I'm okay with that. Let me wash my brush out really good and set it off to the side here. And while I'm waiting for this to dry, let me answer a couple of questions over here. Let's see. I want to encourage to do a beach scene. And there's no, you don't have to build up any courage. Just dive in and do it. You know, I actually have had this drawn, and I had a little apprehension about painting this because I've been doing individual pieces, one thing with a simple background for quite a while. And then I said, I'm just going to dive in and do it. And I just before I came on tonight to do this video, I did a kind of a sample one that was a whole scene all built into one. Easy. I'm remembering how to do it. Which is good for me, which is good for you guys too. Just get out and do it. Doing spaghetti tonight in Northern California here. Anne's doing spaghetti tonight. That's nice. I had, I shouldn't, for everybody who doesn't live in California, or I guess Arizona, maybe, I had a double-double for dinner tonight. It was delicious. That's an In-N-Out burger. Fantastic tonight. Happy to see, Cynthia's happy to see I'm doing landscapes again. Yeah, I'm going to get back into doing more, like I said, more composed pictures, more of what you would think a traditional picture would look like. I'm still going to do those other pieces, but I think it's time to get back into doing something that has a whole composition to it. Okay, I'm just trying to feel this, and this feels like it's dry enough here. And I'm going to, if you have 2 more viewers, let's see, if you have 2 or more viewers that are buffering, it's usually on the channel and seems like it's improved now though. Oh, yes. If there are 2, right, if there's 1 that's doing it, it's a possibility that it's that individual user. If it's happening to more than 1, then it's my fault. I can readily accept that. And Cynthia, you will recognize that I have said many times that I have some sort of gremlin out here in the studio. And that gremlin does not always want me to do some videos. And I for the life of me, I haven't quite been able to figure out exactly what the issue is, but it's been pretty good. It's been better, I think, than it has been in times past. There's been times it's been really bad, and the broadcast has just stopped. That was no fun for anybody. The funny thing is that time that it totally stopped, I didn't know what to do. That was the second or third time I had done a live video. It was very early on, and the stream stopped. It was flashing red at me, and it kept saying trying to reconnect, and then it would stop and it wouldn't say anything. And I went, did it reconnect? Did it not reconnect? It wasn't red anymore. Had gone to a yellow color. I didn't know if I should stop painting or if I should keep painting. I had no idea. It was really kind of comical. Uh-oh, I see something I did wrong already. This little sliver right here needs to be sand color, but not going to worry about it. I'm going to mix up while I'm waiting for my umbrella to dry here. Let's see. I tried doing the popsicle painting from last week, and it turned out pretty good. Ooh! You know what? I loved those popsicles. I thought the popsicles were fantastic. I should say, are you talking about the creamsicle or the whole row of popsicles? Actually, it doesn't matter. I like both of them. I think they're both great. They're both hanging in my office, as a matter of fact. I'm going to use a little Pyrrole red here, and I'm going to mix this with my cold yellow here, which is Hansa yellow, Pyrrole red, Hansa yellow. I should come up with some form of skin tone for this guy. Looks a little orangish. You know what? Maybe he's got a bit of a sunburn. I'm okay with it being a little red. If I wanted to, I can mix a little ochre in there and it will be fine. Got to attend dinner. Okay, see if you can come back. That'd be great. Thanks for stopping by, Ange. The whole roll of popsicles. Oh, yes. I loved those popsicles. I thought those were fantastic. This is a little red. This guy's going to be sunburnt. Mix a little more yellow in. Oh, you know what? I guess I've done several popsicles, haven't I? I forgot. I did the red, white, and blue pop, the bomb pop, or rocket pop, or whatever you it's called in your area. Then I did all the popsicles that were different colors. Then I did the creamsicle. I almost think I have a whole thing for popsicles or something. I forgot about the bomb. I think the bomb pop is hanging in my office too. I know I hung them up on the wall opposite one of my office mates, just to kind of give him the indication that he should go out and buy us all popsicles in the nice summer heat. My diabolical plan has not worked yet, if you're wondering, but there's still time. Every time he looks up at me, he's got to see those popsicles. That's funny. Okay, so I don't know that I can't put any blue on here for the towel. I can't really do his shorts. The only thing I can do, I'm going to leave this basically the way it is. Look at my reference photo, right? It's a pretty nondescript sky. It's a pretty flat water. Maybe I could come back and define that top line a little bit. I'm going to let it be for right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with just a tiny bit of this phthalo green. I know, hang on with me. It's green, I get it. And I'm going to put that with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And I'm going to dot some. Actually, I think that's too much. I want less. I want less than that. I'm going to make some quick dots and dashes in here. No straight lines. No anything. Just a couple of marks here and there. Turn this around, and I just heard, I don't think anybody else would have heard it. It didn't seem quite loud enough. I heard the neighbor's cat jump on the roof. So there's that. That's funny. Okay, so that's part of the wave that we have coming up here. What color of frame did I put the popsicles in? I didn't put them in any frame. I just have some push pins in the wall and then it on there. And let's see, I've probably got 30 different, maybe 40 different pieces of art all on the wall. So some this way, some that way, all meshed in and stuck together. I'm kind of in a corner, so I have some on this wall and some on that wall. All sorts of them. You know what? Let's do this. Let's make this a little darker. Now that I'm looking at this, and I want a little bit of this green in here too. I'm going to try to do this without. I've got a little time. This is still a little damp, so we've got just a moment to do this before we screw everything up. How brave can we be? If I can get this right along that line, I think I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to pull this down. I'm okay to leave a little bit of, at this point it's not really white space, but a little bit of space out there. That's maybe just the indication of a little white cap or something out there. Let's see if I can get around on this side, right up to the edge. My goal this time is to, you guys can laugh at this one too, it's just to not put my arm in my painting, not put my palm in my painting. You guys all know I like to do that. I do it I do it enough. And then I'm just going to pull that down. Maybe I got too many of those. Let me just get rid of a few. There we go. I'm going to pull that down right to our water's edge. That's too straight of a line. I'm going to dab in a little bit. I think that looks okay. That looks pretty good. I'm kind of impressed. There's something I'm just trying on a whim here. That's good. Let's see. That was blue and a little bit of phthalo green, a little bit of Payne's gray in there, and a bit of water. We can do that on the other side too. Give me just a second. I think I see another chat over there. I don't see anybody in the chat on Twitch tonight, but I am streaming on Twitch again tonight also. Last week was the first time that I attempted that, and it seemed to go fine. I didn't have any problems with it, so I just left the settings the same, and so we're broadcasting to Twitch again tonight. Also, for anybody who doesn't know what Twitch is, that's not a big deal. Twitch is a streaming service similar to YouTube. It was made specifically for gamers to be able to share their gaming streams, but there are all kinds of other people who are getting in on Twitch, just like this. Let's see. Donna, you're finally happy to see I'm painting a beach scene. You know what's really funny? I'm finally painting a beach scene. I don't know if I've ever really done a whole beach scene before. But I live right next to the ocean, so it's funny that I haven't ever done a beach scene. I should have been doing them all along. I guess I can think maybe I did an on-location sketch, I think, of, and put that out in a highly edited, I think, video. So I think I did do one beach scene, but really I should be doing a lot more beach scenes. I'm trying to get a little shadow on this wave here. It was still a little too white for me all the way around, so I want to get a little bit of color on that and let it blend up and into that beach a little bit, right down onto that sand. Actually, I think I've got that off. You can't see. All right, so much for using the piece of tape as a way to it didn't work because I've got a piece of tape right here. Watch this. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Look, I got a piece of tape right here, and as soon as I went like this, right over top of it, then I couldn't see the tape anymore. So it didn't much matter. That's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny. And I got to pull this down into... Now, I always thought that this little wave was going to be the hardest, believe it or not, the hardest part of this whole painting, and I think really that it is. Okay, let's see. I want to do what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix. I've still got my puddle here of my skin tone. I'm going to mix a little bit of this burnt umber into that, and I'm going to look over here and see where this guy's leg, or this person anyways, leg, I think it's this guy, is in shadow, and I'm going to try to put that on something like this. Let's see, I'll just take that shadow all the way up there, and I hope that that little bit of brown here, let's see, that's going to go about like that, and some shadow underneath his toes, a little bit on the bottom of that foot. And I don't want a super hard edge on here, so before I go too far, I'm just working with, what I'm doing is I'm going right into clean water, getting my brush wet, and then I'm mostly drying it off and going right onto the edge of the paint. And just soften that edge just ever so slightly. See, this whole leg here, see, I'll take some of this orange, this red, and this brown. And I've probably just made a giant mess. Too red, way too red. Let's see, that was a cold yellow. Let's do that. That's probably a little better. It's a lot better. Let's see, his foot is in there. Let's see. No more questions. Anybody have any questions? Just throw them out here. The fun for me of this live stream is being able to answer questions for everybody. That's part of why I do it, because I enjoy answering questions and helping people to learn to watercolor. So if you've got questions, please throw them out there. I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'm just going to keep right on talking while I'm painting, or try to talk while I'm painting. Sometimes it works better than others. Let's see, we had a shadow line here. And we've got a shadow line here. And that's kind of a hard shadow. That's coming from the umbrella. And that can go all the way down there. It's starting to come together, I think. We'll really be able to tell in a little while when a few more of these elements start coming together. See, I'm redarkening this because it really was starting to dry a lot lighter than I thought it needed to be. So we can do that. We have the opportunity. We have the ability to do that. We can make those as dark or as light as we want. All right, I'm going to stick with that for right now. Those legs are looking like legs underneath there. What colors did I mix for the sand, and what brand of watercolors am I using? Okay, so I'm using this palette, and I don't know, what are we at? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 26. Okay, 26 wells. Okay, 26 wells. Oh, I thought 24. 26 wells. I've got 18 colors in there. These are M-gram watercolor paints, professional watercolor paints, very highly pigmented. I very much like the M-gram paints. They are across the range, consistently good. There's no bad colors in there. And for the sand up here, I used a little bit of burnt umber. This is almost all yellow ochre here, and when I get down into the foreground, I want to bring that foreground forward. One way to do that is to add a little bit of red to what you're using. So I put in my maroon perylene right here. It's a very dark red, just a little bit of that mixed with the yellow ochre to make that sand color. And I didn't mix it too much. Actually, I could have mixed a little bit more over here. This looks a bit messy, but it's kind of sand. You know, sand is kind of like that. I like over here the gradients in color, so I'm okay with it being a little messy. I might come and strengthen the foreground down here a little bit more before we're done, so that it even pulls this a little bit more farther forward. But before we get to that, what I want to do, I'm going to get this big, this is a number 8 silver black velvet brush. And now my umbrella here is just azo orange. But I'm going to mix into that. Well, let's see, what am I going to mix into that? I'm going to mix into that a little bit. Wow, that's way too much. A little bit of this alizarin crimson, permanent alizarin crimson. And I think that's a good color. And let me show you what I'm thinking about. So on here, when I look at this, I see a hard line that goes right up here on this panel. So I'm going to make this dark here, and I'm going to lighten it as I go across to this panel, because this panel starts out darker again right here. So I'm going to try to replicate that right here. And so there's two ways that we can darken this up. Right? One way would be to strengthen the existing color, which would be just add on more azo orange. And we could do that, and that would be totally fine. What we'd do is get just a more intense color that's exactly the same, or we can mix it with a different color just to alter it a little bit, which is what I've done here, which is why I want a very small amount, because I don't want it to just be a totally red. Alizarin crimson is such a strong, potent color, and I don't want it to totally take over. But I'm okay if it does a little bit. All right, and I'm going to do that. And you know what? I think I'm going to come back and I'm going to make this even a little bit stronger on this side. As long as it's still wet, we can go back in and help that out. There we go. I got it nice and strong on over here. Shoo, it's going to get lighter over here. Excuse me. And actually, the same thing is going on this panel. So you can see, or maybe you can't, but I'll explain what I can see. I know the colors on the camera aren't always great. It's darker here. The light is coming from this direction. So where this is ribbed in the umbrella, it's dark. There's a dark line there, and then it gets light all the way across. So I'm going to do that on this one also. Right like that, only I'm not going to make this one quite so dark. And then I'm going to try and blend this out pretty far, maybe all the way across. And I'm just going to let that run out as much as it wants to. And I don't want to go over it too much, because the azo orange will lift a little bit. But I think you can see I've just got that little bit of red there, and it starts to add a lot of definition to that umbrella. What color did I use for the sky? So, for the sky up here, oh look, my paper as it's dried is curled up again. I used mostly cerulean blue here. I did mix a little bit of cobalt blue in it, and I didn't mean to do that, but mostly the cerulean blue and just a touch of the Payne's gray to tone it down a little bit. Not too much. We don't need it toned down too much, but a little bit helps. All right, I'm going to mix up a nice big puddle here. So if you're Donna, if you use M. Graham paints, what is your favorite color of M. Graham paints? I will tell you mine, but I'm curious to hear what your favorite color of M. Graham paints are. And I actually have mine on my palette, and I use it quite a bit, and people often ask me why I use it, but once they see it used, they get it, because you don't think of it as really a natural color that goes with everything, but it's such a nice color. I love it. So what is your favorite M. Graham color, Donna? I'll tell you, I'm going to show you mine in just a second as soon as I get this done. There we go. And I left just a tiny little line here on here. I don't even know if you can see it in the video. A tiny little line, but you can see how when I got it lighter here and put a little bit darker next to it. In fact, I'm going to darken that up just a little bit more now that I'm looking at it. I want this side over here to be fairly dark. Up to about there. There we go. That, I think that adds quite a bit of definition to this. Let me grab a little tiny sheet of paper here. I must have some practice paper in here somewhere. And here's a piece of practice paper. My favorite. I just bought a palette full of Daniel Smith while I was still trying to get a hang of it. Lisa, is this your first time you've used Daniel Smith watercolors? They are very highly pigmented also. And when you make the jump to those, sometimes it is quite a challenge to get used to for a small while. Here's my favorite color. Look at this. I don't know if this is coming out quite as nice on the camera, but this is turquoise, and I love this M-Gram turquoise color. There you go. There's a nice graded wash of M-Gram turquoise paint. This is my favorite color of M-Gram paints. It's a vibrant blue, a little on the warm side, but a blue nonetheless, and it mixes very well with all kinds of other stuff. Okay, enough of my favorite colors. Still trying to, yes, it is very pigmented. Yeah, Daniel Smith paints, just like the M-Grams, very highly pigmented. And it'll take you a little bit, and then you'll figure it out. My problem is, I don't know if Lisa, and I don't know if how much of the M-Gram paints you've used, but I don't know if they re-wet quite as fast as the M-Gram paints. I do know that they are also made with a bit of honey in them so that they will re-wet fairly quickly. But my problem with the M-Gram paints is that they re-wet so fast. I mean, it's like you touch it and it's just a ton of color out of it. It's not a complaint. It's just something that you've got to get used to. And until you do, it's like, holy cow. You end up with your whole palette all filled up with color because you've got so much on there, and you say to yourself, well, I'll just add a little bit of water and I'll thin it out. It'll be fine. I'll just add a little bit of water. I'll thin this out. Everything's good. And you add a little bit of water and it doesn't thin out. And you add a little bit more water and it doesn't thin out. And you add a little bit more and it doesn't thin out. And pretty soon you realize, holy cow, these really are super pigmented, and it's never gonna thin out as much as I thought it would. Or it could be also that maybe that's just me who has that problem. I don't know. But it's a funny thing about these highly pigmented paints. I've only used a couple of the Daniel Smith colors, so I don't know really how they work all that well, but I suspect they are very nice. You do have a small 12-piece palette that you got from Etsy. I bet you're going to love it. Give it a try. I say that. I say that because I've bought into the M-Grams. I totally have bought in. I started with, what did I start with? I started with Winsor Newton, and I had a 24 palette of Winsor Newton cakes, the hard pans, and not even more orange on this side. And I used those for a while, and those were good. And then, everybody knows I work at a university. I went down to the bookstore, and they were having a sale on some of their paints, and I just kind of went, oh, sure, why not? I'll buy some of these M-Gram paints. I didn't know really anything about them at the time. I just went, oh, why not? I'll give these ones a try. And I took them home, and I went, holy shamoly, these are difficult to use. They wet so fast. They have so much pigment in them, and I really was having a bit of trouble. And then I kind of got the hang of using them, and now I don't want to use anything else. Okay, how are we doing here? Let's see. The buying is easier than the painting. Yes, it is. The buying is by far easier than the painting. Yeah, if we could just all do it with just buying, how great would that be? Let's see. That's not wet enough. This is I'm doing the towel that this person is sitting on now. And like I said, I forgot to do some sand back here. I don't know exactly what color to make this towel. So I'm going to go with ultramarine for no particular reason. I mean, it's a blue, I know it's a blue towel. The picture is a blue towel. I'll show you the picture in just a second. Let me get some color down here. One of these times when I forget how to talk and paint at the same time. Now the tricky part with the towel in this painting is that so much of it is in the shadow. It's blue, but so much of it is in the shadow that you want to paint it more blue. But blue on top of blue doesn't always work well. Okay. Not my best layer of paint here, if I'm being honest, but I think we can fix this up like that. I think the problem is I don't have enough water. That looks a lot better. Marty says, hope you enjoy your Daniel Smith paints. I love mine. Yeah, people who... I have friends who use their Daniel Smiths, and just like I don't have a huge desire to use other paints because I like my Daniel Smiths so much. My friends who use the... No. I think I said that wrong. I don't have a huge desire to use other paints because I like my M. Grahams so much. My friends don't have a huge desire to use other ones because they like their Daniel Smith so much. And I guess I'm just going to have to break down. I need to flip this again. I'm just going to need to break down and get mine out and give them a try. Actually, you know what? I just remembered. The Daniel Smith paints that I bought specifically because I was going to be doing some sort of a beach scene. They are ocean paints, the ocean colors. Like they're, I don't know, greens and blues and whatnot that you might find in a sea painting. I just remembered that. Oh, that's weird. I'm not even sure where they're at. I'm totally gonna. I think when I'm done here, I'm gonna have to go and hunt them down and see if I can find them. I'm mixing up a little bit of sepia with a little bit of my Payne's gray. I don't want this to be too bright, but I don't want it to be too dark. This person's swim trunks here. So I'm just going to paint them a really neutral gray. And the sepia will help to warm up the Payne's gray a little bit, or you could say it the other way, that I need to drop down a brush size here. You could say that the Payne's gray is going to cool down the sepia. There we go. And I'm imagining that this person has on a pair of white swim trunks or something like that, and so that's what you see there. Okay, so let's see, what do we have yet to go? I've got to do a little something about my sand here. This little bit is really bugging me. I think I can get away with doing this because we're going to end up putting a shadow in here, and I think you won't notice it all that much. And we can do this too. There we go. Okay, that got that white out of there. I'm really liking how we've got some good definition on our umbrella. What was just an orange blob now looks like it's come up in the classic umbrella shape. I think what we need to do is see, this is still wet. That's a little wet. We need to, let me get some paint ready. Little Payne's Gray, a little bit of ultramarine. We need to be able to add a little bit of texture to our towel here to make it look like it's not just this blue blob that's kind of out there. So we can just drop in some blue shapes here. Right, and that's going to give us a few highlights in that towel. There we go. We don't need to do, too much, but this is a roll. This is kind of rolled right here. But if we do this little bit, then it's really going to add a lot to the remaining painting here. Right, it's going to add a lot of depth to this little bit that we're working with. There we go. There we go. Come on. Let's see. I like the Azo Orange in the M-Gram. Like Universe M-Gram paints from the start, and you took my advice when you first started. Uh-oh, that's dangerous. But you started with the M-Gram, and you like the M-Gram. They're fantastic colors. They really are. I bet I've been asked 1,000 times what paints I use and why I use them, and I'm totally cool with it. I totally get it. Everybody's curious why does somebody use this one over that one? What's the benefit of this over that? But boy, when you can show somebody how pigmented the paints are and how little you use. Now, I wonder, Donna, do you still have your first tubes of paint? You probably, if you're like me, you put them into a palette like this and they're still there, right? They're so pigmented, you don't use any. You hardly use any, I guess I should say. There's just so much paint in there. Sydney, hi, how are you? I'm a little late, but I like what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're a little late. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the compliment. We're going to be finishing this up fairly soon. We're at almost an hour mark. I like to keep it about an hour. But we're not going to be able to, if I stopped now, we wouldn't have nearly enough for next week's. So we're going to keep pushing right on through. So I'm mixing up mostly neutral tint. I should say neutral tint is my newest color. And I use neutral tint for a lot of the shadows that I put on. And neutral tint, if you've not heard me talk about neutral tint before, neutral tint is a neutral gray color that tends to be a bit more purple than other neutral grays. Right? Payne's gray is a neutral gray, and it's a blue gray. Davies gray is a neutral gray, and I believe that it is also a blue gray. What other grays are there? I don't know, but neutral tint, anyways. I was afraid of that. Neutral tint is a gray that is a very purplish gray, and for me, that purplish color looks more like a natural shadow than just a blue, obviously, or than a Payne's gray, or lots of other colors. They just don't look like a shadow color to me. So for a lot of my shadows, I end up using Payne's gray. Plus, it mixes pretty well with some other colors. I'm going to try to make this nice and dark in here. And I'm hoping it's not going to run out too far. I want this to be in deep shadow back here. And the darker I can get this right next to this person's leg, the more that leg is going to stand out. I think I can get this pretty close right to that edge there. Yeah, this person's sitting in a pretty dark shadow there. So we got a hard shadow on his leg or her leg. You know what I do? You know what I want to do? I want to do this. I'm not quite done. I'm still going. I'm going to futz and fiddle around with this because I want to set a little bit of definition between these two legs here. So I need a tiny little shadow line. And you didn't know we needed it. I didn't know we needed it. But now that it's there, and you can see that there are definitely two legs there now, not just one giant leg, it looks a lot better. And this is my problem with wood pulp paper. Last week we had a big discussion about paper. This is wood pulp paper, and the colors just seem to continue to blend and fade on wood pulp. And so I just want to be a little careful about that. I want to put my shadow back in there. And what do you think? Do I need to punch up the front of this? I think I need to a little bit. Let's see. Yes, you don't have to use too much paint at a time. I just ordered neutral tint, but haven't used it. Is it better than Payne's gray? It's different than Payne's gray. I don't know that I'm going to say it's better. It's different. I use it for a slightly different purpose than Payne's gray. Like I said, it has a purplish tint to it. So anytime you want to mix with a red, let's say, you can easily do that with that neutral tint, which I have here. In the Payne's gray, it doesn't mix quite as well. So you do get a few things out of it. It serves a different purpose. Yes, exactly. It really isn't just a gray. Daniel Smith just added 7 special. Oh yes, I saw. You know what? I saw Daniel Smith came out with their gray collection, and I will admit I'm pretty curious about it. Not curious enough to buy it quite yet. but curious about it. I think what I'm going to do is mix up. You know what? I think there's too much orange in this. Let me do this real quick. I want to pull this front out just a little bit more. So a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of that maroon perylene, and if we need it, a little bit of that burnt umber, and I'm going to switch back to a bigger brush. There's my nice big brush. A little bit of this. Boy, that maroon is strong juju. And I'm going to put it down here, and you'll see, I hope, that when we do this, it's going to, the only thing I can't do is touch this blue. You don't want that to happen. If I'm super careful here, but it should help bring this whole front forward just a little bit more. Maybe just a touch more red. A little bit of the ochre here. I want this to be in the foreground, not necessarily a bit of the background. That is, to me, a whole lot better. I got a little extra water on there, just damping off that little extra water. Could even I like this better. It just pulls that whole thing forward that little bit. We don't need a lot. And when this dries, it'll lighten up a little bit. It looks like, but it definitely looks like this is way forward, and this part of the beach just recedes way off back there now. But what I do need to do, I just noticed when I looked at the video, is I do kind of need to make these sides go up in parallel. Can't have one side be way close and one side be way far away. And I think that does it. I think that's pretty good. I think I'm going to leave it with that. There is my painting. Yeah, right. Thank you, Donna. That added color right here. I mean, it went from a painting that was like this to a painting that was like this. Just immediately. It's a combination of it being a bit more intense, plus that red, that little bit of red just helps to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put just a dab of color right back here. I know I should stop fiddling with it. I really should. I shouldn't be doing anything else. This is one of those times where I look at it and I go, I can just do one little thing here, and I shouldn't do it. Okay, I'm done. I gotta stop. I wanted to get a little texture back in here. Okay, so this is it. I can't sign it right now, obviously, because it's all wet here, but this red really helps to pull that forward, especially with a bit of blue right here that can kind of make this recede a little bit. I really like how our umbrella took shape when we started doing this big graded wash across here and across here and across here. Really gave it a lot of shape and body to that umbrella. I think that's all I've got for you guys this evening. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Again, I want to say thank you to Christine and Jennifer for contributing to the studio funds. They went to my website and donated to the beer fund. It's not actually a beer fund. It just helps defray the cost of paper and materials and whatnot here in the studio. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links are down below. I've got my website, watercolorswithmichael.com. Also a link down below. And I think that's about all I've got. I think this coming week I'm going to be trying to get a new review section up on my website. Oh, I didn't even notice. I have one viewer on Twitch over there. It's Heather from the Craft Shack. You can see her videos on YouTube if you are in a crafty mood. She's got a whole bunch of great videos. I think that's all I've got for you this evening. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me this whole time. I really appreciate it. Here's my beach scene. That's what we started with. That's what we ended with. I think it turned out great. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week back here live. Bye-bye.